All right, so I put in AI the other day on because sizing of the pantograph, especially the height, is the hardest part that I struggle, and I know a lot of other people struggle too. So I asked AI how high I should do a pattern size using QCT, and I actually use Quilter's Creative Touch. And this is what it spit me out. It said, when choosing a pantograph pattern size for quilting, the most important factor is the quilting machine's throat space. The general rule of thumb is select a pantograph design that is roughly 6 inch smaller than your throat size to ensure the comfortable quilting and pattern to be able to do it across your quilt. For example, and this is kind of strange that it had a 15-inch throat because that's my machine I use at home is a 15-inch. And I know I can only use a 9-inch pattern. So I think that was kind of interesting that AI is kind of catching up with our automation. And the point I want to bring about this is that everybody is going to need to know their own limitations on their machine and their frame because each frame is different also. Once you know that limitation, then when you go to designing your pantograph, you know you can't go over a certain size, so you won't have problems as you go down your quilts. Next slide, please. And here it is, a size again. How do you figure out a size? If you get a scrap piece of paper, if say you bought a new design online, get a scrap piece of paper and put it off to the side and quilt it out and quilt out different sizes to determine what size is going to work for you. Next one, Jacqueline. Things to consider, of course, throw space is the one on top, and you once you learn your equipment, then that's a one and done thing. You won't have to worry about it later on. And then what else do you want to do with your, how else are you going to do your pantograph? What are you going to use your quilt for? Is it for show? Is it for use? Is it for a child, an adult? Do you want to do a loose pattern or a dense pattern? That's really important before you get going, is to decide how you want this to look at the end. You don't want to put a dense pattern on a child's quilt that's going to be using it. You know, you want to put a dense pattern for a show quilt. That would be awesome. So consider those things when you're choosing your pattern in QCT. Next slide. So I'm going to go over all of the different levels of pantograph and modes in QCT. This one is etched. I'm just going to go through these screens real quick, Jacqueline, and then we'll go to the QCT program. So the quilter in the edge to edge, this is our lowest tier software, and you choose your pattern height and spacing and get going. Next slide, please. Beginnings, you specify your quilt width, your height of either one row or of the total height for 2 rows. And with beginnings or plus, you only have 2 rows max. So you set up 2 rows and sew them over and over again as you go down the quilts. Next, please. The easy mode. This is kind of funny. I hear a lot of people that love easy mode. I particularly don't like easy mode. That's just my preference. I didn't think it was easy, but a lot of other people do too. So this is another mode. You put in your quilt width, your height, and then your pattern height, and then the program calculates the rest. I'll show you that in a little bit. Next one, please. Basic mode. Basic mode, you put in a lot of information in basic mode. I feel basic mode, you have the most control of what you're doing with the pattern. You would put in your quilt width, your quilt height, the number of rows to get you to the desired pattern height, and the repeat of patterns. Okay, next. Power Panto. I love Power Panto. Power Panto, you put in your total width, your total height, add your pattern, and then the program does the work for you. And it nests your pattern nicely. You do have to, you can then adjust what size you want, and then the spacing in between your pattern, your rows of your pattern, you add that in, and then you're ready to go. Next slide. Advanced mode is exactly like basic mode. It has the same functions and stuff. The only difference in this mode is you can add a different pattern per row. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can you all see my screen okay? Hope so. Okay, there's one thing I do want to talk about before I get going with the QCT program. In the top left, it says new notifications. Now, every time there's an update to the software, I push out a notifications. So I don't know if, because I see a lot of people's screen with this still up. That tells me that people don't know about this. And I'm going to go ahead and click on mine. This was the first one I did when we moved to QCT to welcome you to 6, when we first went to 6. And then my next notification is we have an update. I put in the version number, and also in here, I put in the release notes of what we've done to the software. And also in here, if you click on update QCT 6 online, it brings up, I'm not going to bring it up because sharing the screen, I don't know what it's going to do, but it will bring up instructions to follow to do that update. And once you close this, now new notifications is gone. Now another one will not pop up until I push another one out for like the next update. Now the only time this will populate is when you're online and you open the software. You have to be online first, and then you open the software, and if I have an update, that will come out. If it's gone and you want to go reread something, you can go to help, and then you can go to notifications, and it will bring up the same notifications of the ones that have been pushed out. So if you've ever wondered what has changed from one version to another one, you can come in here and read the release notes. Another thing I want to talk about real quick is down in the bottom right where it says try other product tiers. When I click on it, it shows all of our different tiers that we have in QCT. Now, QCT 6 right here is only viewed by Qnique sewing machines. So unfortunately, if you have another sewing machine other than Qnique, you will not see this tier. This is the first one I want to show you. Now, it doesn't matter what level you are on, you can go see any level at any point. If you're on QCT 6, I can go to plus, but it's going to push you in demo mode. You can't sew with it, but you can check it out and see it. The same with pro, and that if you're in pro, you can go down and use plus. You can also go down and use 6. They won't be demos. You can actually use it. I want to challenge anyone that has pro to go down to 6 and see what you think of it, and put a small piece on and use it. I love this level. So this is edge to edge. I'm going to go ahead and pick on it. We have QR codes, and we have links to videos to walk you through this process, which is pretty awesome. And everything, since this screen came up, I do want to mention everything I'm showing you today with designing your pantograph. This also goes with the hoop frame. So everything you're seeing today also benefits hoop frame. So I'm going to choose whether I'm a rolling rail or I'm a hoop. So I'm going to just go ahead and do rolling rail. I'm going to set my safe area. I'm going to iterate on the safe area again, how important the safe area is. You need to make that safe area so you have room to place your pattern and room to move your pantographs and roll, so you don't run out of space. It's just really important that you move your machine off your quilt. And if you have a quilt, I see this a lot. I've seen this a lot when I was doing tech support. People pin their quilt and they have their leaders on, and then they set their safe area and they only go to their leaders. They don't go to the front. They haven't rolled it up to the front bar. And so that's limiting you space. And then you wonder why you don't have that much space. So just want to bring this up again, that the safe area is so important on what you're doing. Since I'm in simulation mode, a keypad comes up and I can enter numbers if I want, but I'm just going to keep the defaults. Now I'm going to choose a pattern. And I really want to show this pattern. So I chose my pattern, then I'm going to go next, and then I'm going to choose my pattern height. I'm going to go, I think 7 with this one. And then I'm going to go to next. And now this is showing your space, how much spacing it is. So I'm going to go down and minus my space to move it in together, because this is all about space. So we want to fill our space as we're quilting. We don't want to see defined rows when we're done with our project. So I'm just going to keep going. It's getting close. I like that space. I like to try to figure out the space here is, and I'm not sure if you can see my cursor really good, but between the rows and then the space between like this popcorn here, and kind of make those a little even. Then I'm going to hit next. This is a new process, I should say, in our software. With this tier, you select your quilt top edges. We have a top here, we have a center, and then we have a bottom. So I'm just starting, I'm going to choose the top. A lot of people were confused that this was like a safe area. So what you do is you move your machine to the top left edge of your quilt top, and then you hit this gray node on the top left. And then I'm going to move it straight down towards my belly bar, and then hit my node. And then I'm going to go to the right side, move my machine, and I'm going to just be right on the edges of my quilt. Edge to edge was designed to quilt off your quilt and back on, not back on, but because you're doing one row at a time. So it is designed to quilt off your quilt. That one wasn't very good. That means I have a crooked quilt. All right, so, and then I've done my edges, hit next. Now the program placed my first row automatically. See, my nodes are already green because it took away this empty space down here. So it will only sew what's in the white. It's not going to sew what's in the red. You can move your machine and touch the nodes to move it if you want a starting point somewhere different. And then we also have where you can move the machine to get your marks. It's important to get your marks even at the first. So if something happens even at the first row, you can go back and repair pattern. Having your marks and keeping your marks are really important as you go through the process, just in case something happens, or even if you shut down for the night. Or as we've experienced, you pulled your quilt off the frame and you find a very horrible tension issue and you have to rip it out and put it back on the frame and sew it. We've done that, huh, Jerry? We just did that the other day. So yeah, so this is in edge to edge. This is how we fill our space. And we do, with this level, we do one row at a time, and it starts from the left and goes to the right all the way down. So I hope you can hear me. I just got a message about my speaker. Okay.
We hear you okay, Marie.
Okay. It just did something weird with my speaker. Okay, so I'm not going to show you the whole process. I just want to show you fill in our space and how each level does that. So I'm going to go back to home and I'm going to go back to try other product here. And now I'm going to go into plus and I'm just going to tap on start right on plus to take you to that tier. I go into Pantograph. Real quick, because I was in edge to edge, I'm just going to reset my safe area. We've seen some weirdness with that. So now we're in beginnings level of the software, and you would put in your total width. And then this is where you can only do 2 rows. So your total height is going to be either the height of one row or the height of both of the rows. And because of my safe area, it's already taken some space away from me. So I can't go over 9.6. So I'm just going to go ahead and make it a 9. And then I'm going to choose this pattern. And then in here, you want to add, I'm going to do 2 rows. And then I'm going to add my pattern. I learned a little trick from here from one of our brand ambassadors, Janet George. Next to our numbers with our pattern height, there are some nesting hearts. If you go to the center nesting hearts, it centers everything. And this kind of gives you your aspect ratio of your pattern. So if you want to keep your aspect ratio really close, you can go to these hearts in the center. And then I can add patterns to my liking. If you go over on this, I can go back and see how it's overlapping. I'm going to go to 7. I'm not quite there, so my pattern is going to be stretched just a little bit, which isn't a big deal. So I'm going to go back up to these nesting hearts, and now they have nested together. Now, I don't like this look because it's just going to look like columns as you go down the row. So I'm actually going to stagger. I can hit alternate and it will deselect one row and select one row. I could also tap on the screen to select and deselect a row. Also, why I'm doing this, if you notice, this is going to be more apparent when you're working in advanced mode. In the corners, we have some red indicators, and that means that's the row that you're working on, and then you're going to want to change. So after I've done that, I'm going to, down on the bottom, there's size and move, and then a reset and a stagger. I'm just going to hit stagger, and it's going to stagger the row that I had selected because I didn't want to stagger both rows, and then or it would be still the same. So this is how we fill our space using beginnings. There's a lot more other functions I'm not going to go over in the program, but I just wanted to show you beginnings and fill in your space. I'm going to go back to home. And then I'm not going to go to pro. I'm just going to go right to the gold in here. So in our pro version and pro with gold, with the Qnique machines, with pro, you only have 3 modes. You have power, easy, and basic. You have to have, for advanced, you need to have the gold card. I'm going to go over easy. And with this, you enter your quilt width and your total height. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose my pattern. And then see how my pattern height came in at 14. I don't want to sew that at 14. I'm going to put that at a 5. And then the program calculates it itself, fills it all in. Sometimes you might need to, the pattern might not fit perfectly from side to side, so you might need to unlock this, lock at the bottom center, and then hit center, and that will, it will spread it out. But on this one, I have some extra space right here, and I'm gonna unlock my lock because that's gonna stretch it a little bit. And then I'm going to grow my pattern because I want it to feel, I'm pointing at my screen thinking you guys can see it, but you can't. Sorry. But it will grow the pattern a little larger to fill in that space. So that is how easy mode. We also, there's some staggereds in there and some flips. The one thing easy mode doesn't do is it doesn't wrap from top to bottom, which some of the other modes do. So I'm gonna go back. So that one is a quick one. I'm going, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to leave the program. I'm gonna click on where it says Panto mode. I'm gonna click on that. And I'm going to go to basic mode. Now, basic mode, you do a lot in basic mode. I'm going to do my pattern, my total width and my total height of my quilt. And I'm going to select a pattern. I actually did patterns in my own folder here. So I'm going to go to here because I'm going to choose this pattern. And it comes in large. And this is when you're going to add rows. And as you're adding rows, watch your pattern height. Your pattern height is going down. And you're going to add rows to the desired height that you want your row to be. I'm going to go ahead and keep it at 8. And now I'm going to add my patterns to my liking. And if you want to go down again to the nesting hearts to check out your aspect ratio, and then you can come back up and choose the other nesting hearts when you do that. I believe I want to go to 4 patterns. Now on this particular pattern, see on the right-hand side where there's a lot of space with no pattern in there. I can change the nesting heart. So I'm going to do the hearts again and go to the center one, which adds a wrap. So it's centering your pattern, but it will also wrap it from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. On your screen, what is pink will stitch out. So just changing that mode will help with filling in your spaces. This particular pattern, I don't need to do anything from top to bottom because I feel the space is good on that. I am going to go now and select another pattern. I want to go back to our popcorn. And I'm going to reset this one because I just want to reset it to get it to, and on the reset at the top, it will reset all of your changes that if you've done on the bottom, so you can start fresh with the new pattern. I'll go ahead and add rows to, I'm going to go ahead and stay at 8 on this and then add my patterns. I think I'm going to try 4 for right now. I'll probably be changing that. So look at how much space I have that I need to fill up. So I have select at the bottom, I have select row, and next to that is fit. There's some different options. When I'm going to start stretching this pattern. And with these options, when you stretch your pattern, do you want it to wrap from the top to bottom? With this particular pattern, I'm going to say yes to that. So as I grow the pattern, oh, I need to be at the top one here. Sorry, let me reset that. Oh, come on. All right, there we go. So as I grow the pattern, it is also wrapping from the bottom to the top to help fill in my space. Now, what I don't like, what has happened is my pattern is really stretched than how I had it before. So I could even go down a pattern and make it look a little better. So those are your options in basic mode to fill in all your spaces. And you can do both. You can fill in the top and bottom and fill in the sides if you need to. All right, so I am going to change my mode from basic and go to Power Panto. I love Power Panto. I am going to go select the same pattern because I want you to see this. And boom, it's there. All I have to do is change the pattern height. So I'll go and go higher. I think I'll go to 8. And then what you want to do with your pattern is you want to zoom in on here because I'm going to add my space now. In Power Panto, you always need to look at your vertical spacing. There's so many different patterns out there in the world that the programmer couldn't do the correct spacing for every pattern. So it's kind of up to us to now choose that spacing. So here in the middle, I'm going to do space and just kind of add my spacing. And I think that looks pretty good. And that's how easy Power Panto is. If you want to do a lot of manipulation, you'll want to use basic mode. Because you can do about everything in basic mode. Power Panto does a lot for you, and it's quicker, faster, and it's pretty awesome. We have our flips. When Power Panto was developed, it was developed for patterns that would nest. So it does the nesting for you. You saw where I had to, in basic mode, I had to grow the pattern to get that nesting. Power Panto does that for you. You just need to choose you put in your total width of your quilt, your total height, and choose your pattern height, and then add your vertical spacing, and you're ready to go. I love Power Panto. All right, the next mode I'm going to go over is going to be in advanced mode. Now, advanced mode is exactly like basic mode, except you can do a different pattern per row or the same pattern, but it allows you to do different patterns. I'm not going to have very good spacing on this one because I want to show you pretty much the process to do the different patterns in the different rows, because it can trick you up a little bit if you're not doing the right steps. So I'm going to add my rows that I want to use, and I'm just going to use 4 for this one. And then I'm going to add my patterns. I'm just going to do 3 because it's such a large pattern. Now, this is an important part. I need to add a pattern to the other rows. See these red indicators. They need to be on the row that you're going to do that on, or the program will start screaming at you. So I'm going to deselect this row. I'm just going to tap on it, and then I'm going to tap on my next row, and that automatically moves my indicators down and it highlights the row for me to work on that row. And then I'm going to do select pattern. I'm going to choose the beanie. I know it looks a little weird. It does until you finish. And then I'm just going to add my patterns. So now I'm going to deselect this row and select my next row. And then I can select another pattern. I'm going to do the cap. And then I'm going to add my patterns. And I'm going to deselect this row and select that row and add my last pattern, which is the duck. and add that. And yes, the spacing on this one's not the greatest. It's probably not one I would do. I just wanted to demonstrate how to get to the other rows, because if I want to go back up to this row, or say I kept this one highlighted and I want to do this row and make it changed. If I try to grow it, oh, it did it right that time. So you just got to make sure those indicators are there and that the row is selected, or it starts to not like you. See how I have my 4 indicators in the top row, but I don't have it a darker blue. So now I could make my changes on that row. And then I'd really want to deselect these 2. And then when you deselect, those things move. So there we go. So yeah, that is pretty much it in a nutshell. Yeah.
And always when you're on YouTube, we love it. Make sure you click that like, make sure you share it, make sure you follow us so you do get the notifications when we post videos on YouTube. And mostly we just want to say thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for spending time with us. Just really grateful for you.